There was a time when every human on earth spoke the same language. And it nearly destroyed everything. This is the forgotten truth of the Tower of Babel. The world still remembered the water. The flood had withdrawn, but its memory remained, etched into the soil, whispered by the rivers, carried in the cautious eyes of men who had once seen the heavens open. The earth was dry again, yet humanity walked upon it with a reverence born from survival. The descendants of Noah spread across the land, and with them spread life. Children were born. Fields were planted. Cities had not yet risen, but camps became villages, and villages grew into gathering places. The earth, once silent under judgment, now echoed with human voices. And all those voices spoke as one. There was no confusion in speech. No division in words. Every sound carried meaning, and every meaning was shared. One language. One people. One memory of the flood. They journeyed eastward, across wide plains and open skies, until they came to a vast land called Shinar, flat, fertile, and welcoming. It was a place where the horizon seemed endless, where nothing blocked the gaze of men from the sky above. And there, they stopped. The command of God still lingered in the world. Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth. But fear walked louder than obedience. The flood had taught humanity a lesson they could not forget. Isolation meant vulnerability. To scatter was to weaken. To spread was to risk being alone again. So they spoke to one another and said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city." A city would anchor them. A city would bind them together. A city would ensure they would never be scattered again. But the city alone was not enough. Someone lifted their eyes beyond the horizon, higher than walls, higher than roofs. They looked to the heavens. And an idea was born, subtle at first, yet dangerous in its ambition. Come, let us build ourselves a tower, with its top in the heavens. Not to worship God. Not to seek Him. But to make a name for themselves, secure their own greatness, rise beyond judgment. The tower was not a structure of stone alone. It was a declaration. A monument not to faith, but to human permanence. They had no stone, so they created it. Clay was molded. Bricks were baked in fire. Bitumen became mortar. For the first time, humanity declared independence from the natural order. Each brick said, "We will build what the earth did not give us." Each layer whispered, "We will reach what was once untouchable." The tower began to rise. Higher than any structure before it. Layer upon layer. A staircase toward the sky. And as it grew, so did the confidence of those who built it. They believed height could save them. They believed unity could protect them. They believed greatness could be manufactured. They believed the heavens were silent. They were wrong. The tower rose day by day. From a distance, it looked like a mountain shaped by human hands, unnatural in its symmetry, deliberate in its ambition. Its base spread wide across the plain of Shinar, anchoring itself deep into the earth, as if humanity feared the ground itself might betray them again. The structure did not reach the heavens, not truly. But it was higher than anything men had ever dared to build. Layer upon layer of baked brick climbed upward, forming terraces that narrowed as they rose. Long ramps spiraled around its sides, allowing workers to carry materials higher and higher without pause. Smoke from kilns darkened the sky, and the sound of labor never ceased. If measured by modern eyes, the tower may have reached hundreds of feet, perhaps more. Taller than any ancient monument. Wider than a fortress. Comparable in scale to the tallest skyscrapers of ambition, though not of steel. Yet its true height was not physical. Its height was spiritual defiance. Every brick carried the same mark. Every worker followed the same command. Every voice spoke the same words. They no longer built merely to survive. They built to be remembered. Let us make a name for ourselves. The tower became their identity. Children were born beneath its shadow. Elders measured time by its progress. The city formed around it like a body around a spine. To them, the tower meant safety. If another flood came, they believed height would save them. If judgment returned, they believed unity would protect them. If God watched, they believed He would see their greatness and hesitate. But greatness built on fear is never strength. As the tower grew, so did the belief that heaven could be approached on human terms. The builders spoke of the sky as if it were a destination, a place to be conquered rather than a realm beyond reach. They believed the distance between earth and heaven could be erased with enough effort. But heaven does not draw closer when man builds upward. Man only moves farther from humility. And then, the silence broke. Not with thunder. Not with fire. Not with destruction. But with observation. The Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men had built. The irony was absolute. They believed they were climbing toward God. Yet God had to descend to even see their work. From the height of heaven, the greatest tower of men was still small. God saw not only bricks and mortar, but intention. He saw unity without obedience. Purpose without reverence. Strength turned inward rather than upward. And he spoke, not in anger, but in truth. Behold, they are one people, and they all have one language. And this is only the beginning of what they will do. The danger was not the tower itself. The danger was a united humanity moving without God. The change did not come with a sound. No earthquake shook the tower. No fire fell from the sky. The bricks remained where they were. And yet, everything collapsed. At first, it was subtle. A command was spoken, and not obeyed. A warning was shouted, and misunderstood. A question was asked, and answered with confusion. Two men stood side by side, lifting the same brick. One spoke. The other frowned. He answered, but the words were wrong. Familiar sounds twisted into something foreign. Meaning dissolved before it could land. They laughed at first. They thought it was a mistake. Then another voice joined, different again. Then another. Then another. The air filled with sound, but none of it connected. Words, once clear, fractured like glass. The same mouth that once spoke truth now spoke mystery. The same ears that once understood now heard only noise. Hands gestured wildly. Faces tightened with fear. Arguments broke out without insults. Orders failed without rebellion. They were still united in space, but divided in meaning. A man shouted for water. Another brought fire. A builder called for brick. Another handed him straw. The tower did not fall. It was abandoned. Mothers could not calm children. Leaders could not command workers. Friends could not reassure friends. No one was struck down. No blood was spilled. And yet, something far greater was lost. Understanding. Language had been the thread that held them together. When it snapped, unity dissolved instantly. The tower, once a symbol of strength, became a monument to silence. Half-built ramps led nowhere. Bricks lay unused. Fires burned without purpose. People gathered in clusters, instinctively drawn to those whose speech still sounded familiar. And slowly, without being told, they separated. The place was called Babel. Because there the Lord confused the language of all the earth. Not as punishment, but as restraint. Humanity had not been stopped because it was weak. It had been stopped because it was too united without wisdom. God did not destroy the tower. He removed the illusion that unity alone could save them. The city emptied. Families left with those they could understand. Groups moved in different directions, north, south, east, west. What had once been a single people became many. Different sounds. Different rhythms. Different ways of naming the world. The dream of reaching heaven by human hands ended, not in ruins, but in silence. And the tower stood, unfinished. A reminder that height without humility leads nowhere. They left in silence. Not because they were commanded to go, but because they could no longer stay. The plain of Shinar emptied slowly. Paths formed where none had been before. Families walked together, drawn not by flags or borders, but by shared words. Language became compass. Those who spoke alike moved alike. And so the earth began to spread with people. Some went east, following the rising sun. Some went west, toward lands unknown. Others moved north into cold valleys, or south into warm plains. They carried little with them: tools, fire, memory. But they carried something greater. A way of speaking. A way of naming the world. From one language came many. From one people came nations. From one city came the whole earth. The confusion was not chaos. It was division with purpose. Where language changed, thought changed. Where thought changed, culture followed. Some people became builders. Others became shepherds. Some learned the seas. Others learned the stars. Each language shaped how its people understood time, God, nature, and one another. And humanity grew, not upward toward heaven, but outward across the earth. Just as God had once commanded. The tower remained unfinished and used unconquered. Wind passed through its empty ramps. Rain darkened its abandoned bricks. Birds nested where voices once shouted commands. It never reached the sky. But it reached history. The tower became a warning written in stone. Not against building, not against ambition. But against pride without obedience. God did not fear humanity. He guided it. Unlimited unity without moral direction leads not to heaven, but to self-destruction. By dividing language, God preserved humanity's future. He slowed them, so they could endure. He scattered them, so they could grow. He humbled them, so they could survive. Babel was not a failure of engineering. It was a lesson of limits. It taught that heaven cannot be reached by bricks. That God cannot be replaced by unity alone. That greatness without humility leads only to confusion. And yet, even in division, there was mercy. Because from divided nations would one day come a promise. From scattered tongues would one day rise a moment when language would unite again. But not through a tower. Through truth.